micro-level approach started to emerge. Using different analytical techniques, these studies revealed that a wide range of explanatory factors exist and have significant influence on the success or failure of piracy attacks, including the violence perpetrated against crew. Some techniques known to have produced reliable and promising results include the use of event tree analysis, correlation analysis, and binary logistic regression. Other researchers also tried using a variety of advanced models in order to address specific challenges of the pirate phenomenon. These include the Bayesian network model, time series models, and instrumental variable Poisson pseudo maximum likelihood gravity model. Most of the analytical techniques mentioned in previous studies allowed us to look into the nature of piracy from different perspectives. However, the scope of which these techniques can be used is limited to its capacity to analyze certain groups of variables. In order to see a bigger picture, will require researchers to conduct a series of analyses which could involve the use of more than one analytical technique. No studies have been found on the subject of maritime piracy that analyzes multiple uncorrelated variables in a large dataset that uses a single analytical technique. If such study is conducted, it will allow us to see a new and bigger perspective of the pirate phenomenon. Therefore, this study is about performing a one-step approach in a series of analyses using micro-level information obtained from the annual reports of piracy and armed robbery against ships from 2015 to 2018. Results were further used to construct a maritime piracy propensity index. This study utilized principal components analysis in examining the relative contribution of micro-level factors to the success or failure of a piracy attack. The dataset is built on 4 years of worldwide incident-level data obtained from the International Chamber of Commerce, International Maritime Bureau, Piracy and Armed Robbery Against Ships annual reports from 2015 to 2018. The primary analytic technique is principal components analysis. This method has been used in many studies involving multiple variables as a one-step approach in a series of analyses. The objective of this method is to derive an alternative set of explanatory variables called principal components, which have certain desirable statistical properties. The advantage is that multicollinearity can be avoided, or the number of predictors relative to the number of observations can be reduced. The key outputs in the procedure includes the eigenvalues, the proportion of the variance that the component explains, the coefficients or the factor loadings, and the scree plot. Tabular value shows that the first 5 principal components have eigenvalues greater than 1. The cumulative proportion of the first 3 principal components, however, at 85% is adequate enough to explain the variation in the dataset. The first principal component explains 55.6% of the total variance. The second principal component explains 21.2%, and the third principal component explains 8.2% of the total variance. The graph shows that the eigenvalues start to form a straight line after the third principal component. If 84% is an adequate amount of variation explained in the data, then it is enough to use the first 3 principal components. By examining the magnitude and direction of the coefficients for the original variables, we were able to identify the variables that are considered important in each principal component. Variables that load high on the first principal component consist of the type of attack, which is boarded and attempted, the status of ships during actual attacks, which is berthed, anchored, and steaming, status of ships during actual attempted attacks, which is anchored, type of ships, these include bulk carrier, chemical tankers, fishing vessel, product tanker, and tanker, violence done against crew, which is threatened, and the type of arms used, which is not stated. Variables that load high on the second principal component consists of under type of attack fired upon, under status of ships during attempted attacks, steaming, under type of ships, general cargo, under violence done against crew, kidnap, and under type of arms used, guns. Then the variable that load high on the third principal component consists of the following category variables: the type under type of attack, hijack, under status of ships during attempted attacks, berth, under category type of ships, tug, and under the violence done against crew, hostage taking. The first principal component includes 6 variable categories. The second principal component has 5 variable categories. The third principal component consists of only 4 variable categories. The first principal component, since it encompasses all variable categories, may be called a general piracy propensity measure. The second principal component consists of only 5 of the 6 variable categories, excluding the status of ships during actual attacks, may be called attempted piracy propensity measure. The third principal component excludes both armed piracy and the status of ships during actual attacks. For this reason, the third principal component may be labeled as psychological piracy technique. This is the Maritime Piracy Propensity Index. The index shows that Indonesia scores highest in the general piracy propensity, followed by Nigeria. This is consistent with statistics provided in the annual reports that majority of pirate attacks have occurred in these countries for the last 4 years. Malaysia scores highest under psychological piracy technique. This denotes that offenders in Malaysian waters succeed in their attacks by mere use of threat. Conclusion and recommendations. Results of the study revealed that piracy consists of 3 main measures, namely general piracy propensity measure, attempted piracy propensity measure, and psychological piracy technique. The Maritime Piracy Propensity Index developed in this study indicates that Indonesia remains a hotspot for piracy and armed robbery against ships. Nigeria comes second, although a higher percentage of the attacks are unsuccessful. And also, the mere use of threats can result to successful attacks. The result of the study offers new insights for researchers and policymakers and can be used as basis in determining the security level assigned for countries considered as hotspots of maritime piracy and armed robbery. The data used in this study is limited only to the type of attack, status of ships during actual and attempted attacks, type of ships, type of violence, and type of arms used by pirates. There are more data on individual piracy incidents recorded in the annual reports of piracy and armed robbery against ships. It is recommended that the available data of individual attacks be used for further investigation and analysis, which may enable piracy approaches and mitigations be clearly identified. Thank you and good day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rex. May I call in Dr. Rodriguez for the question and answer?
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Again, this is a very technical paper, and unfortunately, I am not into maritime things. However, I would still appreciate your study, since this is still a very comprehensive one. It's just that the records or the data that you have gathered in your research was mainly from a report. Am I correct?
Yes.
And the things that were indicated in the report is international or maybe global in scope. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So my question therefore is, I'm looking into the relevance of your study in the Philippine context, because in the introduction, you have not made mention of any data or statistics that would show what is the scenario of maritime piracy in the Philippine context, and how would these findings be relevant in the context of the Philippines?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I was going for the international scope since uh, I was going for maritime education and training actually because we conduct, or there are several trainings uh, for seafarers for the prevention of piracy, and uh, seafarers need to identify the characteristics of each attacks, or not really the seafarers, policymakers or shipping companies, so that they can formulate strategies on how to avoid piracy attacks in the worldwide context. So also we also have many Filipino seafarers, so I believe this could also help in for training our Filipino seafarers.
Okay, so then I think I have a follow-up question relative to that. Did you already endorse these findings to an appropriate agency in the Philippines so that these things can be somehow be given a teeth in terms of policy recommendations to our seafarers for them to become more aware of this piracy when they get on board during their course, maybe because some others would have their OJTs already on board, and or others that are already working in that field.
And not yet, no, I just completed this study, so with your input, perhaps I will consider doing that.
I think that would be a better idea, because this would remain something that is something like a floating in the realm of relevance, for in the context of the Philippine, what is this legislation, if you will not push for the utilization of your research.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rodriguez and Sir Rex. We will now proceed to our second paper entitled Internet Diffusion Rate Among Asian Countries or ASEAN Countries. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome from Palumpon Institute of Technology, we have Miss Josie Kiban.
Good morning, everyone. I am Josie B. Kiban, a Faculty of Information and Communications Technology Department of the Palumpon Institute of Technology, Palumpon, Leyte. I am here as one of the presenters in the second International Conference on Poverty Alleviation and Sustainable Development. My research is about internet diffusion rate among ASEAN countries. Globally, exchange of information among people all over the world has been facilitated by internet. The internet is a network of information that can be produced by and or accessed by people in different geographic locations. This modality of information exchange has pervaded across social, economic, and political sectors in many advanced countries. It is said that internet connectivity is a major factor in economic growth and development. Nonetheless, adoption of internet is observed to be varied across the different economies in the world. Thus, it is of interest to determine how internet diffused in different contexts, specifically in the member countries of the ASEAN. Although many scholars have been studied and examined internet diffusion across countries, however, previous researches on the diffusion and adoption of internet have been predominantly focused on the determinant factors affecting internet diffusion, and only few have been focused on the rate of internet diffusion, particularly in the ASEAN region. This paper gives more emphasis on the data of the recent years, as time is an important element in the diffusion process. In order to shed light about this topic, the researcher decided to conduct a research to find out the rate of internet diffusion among ASEAN countries. The main objective of this study is to determine the rate of internet diffusion among ASEAN countries during the period 2001 to 2018. Specifically, it aims to identify the patterns of the diffusion process, determine the countries that have the highest and lowest rates of internet adoption, and forecast the trend of internet diffusion from 2018 to 2060 to determine the countries that have reached the saturation point. This study focuses on ASEAN countries' internet diffusion rate. Data were collected from International Telecommunications Union in 2018. This study utilizes the bus diffusion model software to estimate the rate and patterns using the parameters T as the time or year, M as the ultimate number of internet adopters in a country, P as the coefficient of innovators or the one who adopt internet directly based on the information received from the mass media, and Q as the coefficient of imitation or the one who adopts internet based on the influence from word of mouth. These parameters are used to measure the rate of influence the innovators have and the influence that imitators have on the rate of diffusion. Moreover, the period covered were from year 2001 to 2018. However, the software was used to forecast the trend of internet diffusion from year 2018 to 2060. In the results and discussion, Figure 1, this is the internet diffusion among ASEAN countries using bus model. The result of the bus model indicates an E-shaped cumulative adoption curve as the general pattern of the diffusion process. However, the results revealed that different countries in ASEAN have different internet curves and patterns. The result was confirmed in the study of ITU and World Bank that different countries around the world have different internet diffusion curves and patterns. One interesting thing to notice in Figure 1 is that in low and middle income countries, diffusion of internet accelerates within 1 to 20 years, whereas in upper, middle, and high income countries, the process significantly flattens out. This graphical evidence also suggests that low-income countries are catching up with upper high-income countries in the diffusion of internet. Next is the rate of adoption in 2001. The result shows that among the ASEAN member countries, Singapore has the highest rate of internet adoption, while Cambodia has the lowest internet adoption. The BAS assumes that a high value for P or innovators indicates the diffusion has a quick start. It implies that during the launch of the internet in year 2001, Singapore had the highest number of adopters called innovators who adopted internet quickly based on the information from the mass media, while Cambodia had the lowest number of innovators or adopters and thus slowly adopted the internet during the early stage of the diffusion process. Next is the rate of adoption in 2018. As shown in Figure 3, the country that has the highest rate of internet adoption was still Singapore with 99.97%, followed by Malaysia, Brunei, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. While other countries such as Myanmar, Laos, and Philippines have lower rate of internet adoption, and finally, Cambodia with 4.62% of the internet adoption in 2018. BAS assumes that the adoption of a new product or technology are primarily driven by word of mouth from satisfied customers or adopters. Thus, the result implies that Singapore's high internet adoption rate in 2018 was highly influenced by the imitators who have adopted the internet based on the information from other people or word of mouth. So do also with Malaysia, Brunei, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia, while other countries such as Myanmar, Laos, and Philippines were not highly influenced by the imitators, most especially with Cambodia. Next is the rate of adoption by 2040. Figure 4 gives the forecasting result obtained from the cumulative adoption in Figure 1 using the BUS model. The result shows that by 2040, both countries, Singapore and Malaysia, have reached the saturation point of adoption. This implies that 100% of countries' total population are expected to use the internet based on the forecasting results of the BUS software. Moreover, Singapore is constantly dominating in terms of internet adoption across ASEAN region, which is followed by Brunei, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Indonesia, while Laos, Cambodia, and Philippines are lagging behind. This study provides the rate of internet adoption among ASEAN countries for the period 2001 to 2018. The results showed that the internet diffusion among ASEAN countries is well characterized by different S-shaped patterns. In addition, the results showed that the significant difference of the internet adoption curves. The pattern of the curves indicates that high-income countries have the higher diffusion rate as compared to the low-income countries. The result was confirmed in Andres' study that internet adoption follows an S-shaped pattern, but the pattern is different from high and lower-income countries. In addition, based on the result, Singapore was considered as the highly diffused countries, while Cambodia was considered as the lowly diffused country from 2001 to 2018 among ASEAN countries. However, based on the forecast results from 2018 to 2060, it shows that Singapore and Malaysia are among the two countries that have reached the saturation point of diffusion, while Brunei, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia are still closely following the path. However, the lagging countries are Laos, Cambodia, and lastly, the Philippines. The most clear policy implication of the findings is that in order to help narrow the digital divide, policymakers should emphasize policies that liberalize the telecommunications markets in less developed countries. In this study, the main factors were considered, namely the time, potential adapters, innovators, imitators, to estimate the diffusion process. Further works can be done to include other factors and impacts that affect internet diffusion among ASEAN countries to strongly support the results and findings of the study. That would be all. Thank you, and God bless us, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Josie. May I call in Dr. Ramirez
Good morning,
for the
everyone.
question?
Hello, good afternoon. Ma'am Josie, can you hear
Good.
me? Are you
Yes,
there?
sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay, congratulations for coming up with this paper and, of course, having successfully presented in this international conference.
Thank you, sir.
I just would like to uh, be clarified, especially on the enlightenment or more discussion on why Myanmar, Laos, and the Philippines we would be lagging behind in terms of internet diffusion rate, where in fact if we try to look at the realities right now, the Philippines, especially the Philippines, because I'm just concerned why the Philippines would be the last ASEAN country. And it seems to me that the Philippines would be hopeless
Yes, sir.
because it's already 2060. It's already 2060, and we are tailing behind all the countries in ASEAN in terms of internet diffusion.
Mm.
Okay, so can you please explain, give us more enlightenment and explanation? Why is this so?
Actually, the data that I used in this study was taken from the ITU data set, and based on the data, uh, I observed that only few during the introduction of internet in year 2001, the lower income countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, um, oh no, Philippines, Cambodia, Laos, no, have lower internet diffusion rate during the introduction, while while Singapore, no, the high income countries, they have the higher adoption rate during the start. Then later on in year 2018, still they are dominating. Then that is what I actually observed in between high income and lower income countries. And um, during the time that I got the result, the feelings you have now, sir, is also was also the same feeling I have during that time. And then I asked, why is it that Philippines become the last, no, the last country in terms of the diffusion, even if we will forecast that one until 2040. So it is my um, it is my hope to extend this internet diffusion rate study to also study the different factors. Right now, sir, I cannot say that the reason why it's because of the technology or whatsoever, because I have no research on that. And it is my hope, and it is my fervent desire to extend this study to know the real factor or determinants why Philippines become last in terms of diffusion rate. Yeah, because I'm also affected, sir, by that result. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Josie.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Kiban. We will now proceed to our fourth presenter. The paper is entitled Measures to Promote Typical Products in Agricultural Tourism Development in Dong Thap Province, Vietnam. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's all welcome Mr. Bo Nguyen Tong Lee Van Tien from Dong Thap University, Vietnam.
Hello everyone, we are Lê Văn Tiền and Võ Nguyên Thông from Đồng Tháp University, Vietnam, and today we would like to present our paper with the title The Measures to Promote Typical Products in Agricultural Tourism Development in Đồng Tháp Province. First of all, my friend Mr. Võ Nguyên Thông will present the introduction.
Introduction. Doncaster is one of 13 provinces in Mekong Delta. Asians Community-based tourism in Đồng Tháp has just been developed recently, but intentionally contributed to the broadest diversification and segments increasing joy for tourism customers when they experience social economy and discover the beauty of their homeland people and Đồng Tháp culture.
Now I will present the objectives of our paper, and we have general objective. For general objective, we would like to systematize the basic theory to serve the research and development of the agricultural economy associated with tourism. And for specific objectives, we would like to assess the potential and status of agricultural tourism development in the Tháp province, and then analyze the current difficulties and limitations of agricultural tourism in our province. And finally, we would like to propose recommendations for the exploitation of specific products in agricultural tourism development, contributing to improve the lives of farmers in Đồng Tháp province, Vietnam. And now I would like to move on to methodology. For conducting this research, we use non-experimental research method using published information to analyze, compare, generalize, and make inferences. And for data collection and processing method, it is a collection of information related to research topics and processing information to select the best information. The data includes research, scientific reports, and scientific articles. And then we use statistical comparative analysis based on documents, books, magazines about agricultural tourism activities in Đồng Tháp in particular, and based on research, collection, and agricultural tourism models in Vietnam and other countries. And you can see on the right hand of the poster is the current data of tourist arrivals to Đồng Tháp province in recent years. And now I would like to move on to the results. After analyzing the data, we find out some results like: firstly, the province should have more investment in improving the quality of tourism services from agricultural, because currently agriculture tourism is the type of tourism attracting tourists to visit and experience. To meet this requirement, it is necessary to have a specific plan to build a system of quality and specialty, diversified the services with high value. Second, based on the law of nation and the actual situation of tourism development in Đồng Tháp, the local government should create favorable conditions and simplify administrative procedures to attract domestic and foreign visitors, as well as tourism businesses that take the travelers to the attractions of some famous places as ecological spots or craft villages. And the third we would like to mention is the government should pay more attention to infrastructure development, technical and human resources for agricultural services, because In order to attract more tourists to our province, it is necessary to invest the development of the transport infrastructure system and the community space planning so that tourists coming to this area can feel freely relaxed and enjoy scenery and cultural space, history, ecology, environment of the local atmosphere. And then agricultural destinations need to pay attention to environmental factors to avoid using chemicals in group protection during the trip, and it is ideal to serve visitors to experience the peace and the fresh air at some natural gardens. And the fourth thing we would like to mention here is build Domthap Agricultural Tourism Brand. It is important to bear in mind that promotion and introduction of tourism products professionally targeting key local markets, taking agricultural tourism as the focus of agricultural products according to the GAP standards or global GAP should be considered. Tourism promotion must be associated with trade and investment promotion, promoting history and unique local culture of local people while developing social, economic, and environmental protection. And the fifth is strengthening education, raising awareness of environmental protection for tourists. Raising the awareness of environmental protection for tourists is very necessary in order to contribute to enhance their role in actively participating in the protection of tourism resources and developing tourism in the local. Finally, we would like to withdraw some conclusions and recommendations. We believe that Đồng province have great potentials to develop agricultural tourism, and the fact that the initial application has shown the positive effects from agricultural tourism activities on farmers' life in particular and the province economy, cultural and society in general. And then it is important to apply advanced forms of production towards high technology form of chain of a specific agricultural tourism services with natural resources and diversify channels to promote agricultural tourism in the coming years to attract tourists to and improve the quality of Đồng Thap's agricultural tourism services. It is all about our presentation today, and here are
I
some
apologize, but we need to
famous.
continue because it exceeded the 10-minute time frame. Good afternoon. Go back to his presentation when he's around. All right. So this
Overcoming poverty has been one of the crucial challenges facing the international communities, particularly the developing countries. In fact, as part of its Millennium Development Goals, the United Nations has ambitiously embarked on a mission to eradicate extreme global poverty by 2030. In 2019, the ASEAN reported rapid developments in this respect, as indicated by the consistent decline in poverty incidence in the region. They reported a reduction in the proportion of the ASEAN population living in extreme poverty from 47% in 1990 to 22% in 2005 and to 14% in 2015, even going below the MDG poverty target of 23.5%. While Southeast Asian region has made significant milestones in lifting a substantial share of its population out of severe poverty, 34.4% of its working population are still living in moderate or near poverty. In addition, a large proportion of the jobs generated in the region are considered as vulnerable employment. Vulnerable employment refers to persons who have no formal job contracts and are at risk of being terminated without any warning and have no right to unemployment benefits. In 2018, 51.67% of the total employment in Southeast Asia were categorized as vulnerable employment, which was above the global average of 38.51%. The high rate of vulnerable employment in the region remains a threat to the prospects of increased poverty reduction. Addressing the dual issues of poverty and vulnerable employment requires some insights on the factors that drives the dynamic interplay of these two phenomena. The investigation aspires to provide a holistic perspective on how the different factors affect poverty and vulnerable employment using a structural equation model in order to guide policymakers toward effective and focused interventions. This study aims to investigate on the multivariate interactions of the various drivers of poverty and vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia through a PLS-based structural equation model. Specifically, this research seeks answers to the following questions. What are the determinants of poverty in Southeast Asia? And what are the determinants of vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia? This study made use of a panel data extracted from the World Development Indicators starting from 2001 to 2018 at 9 ASEAN countries. The partial least squares structural equation modeling or PLS-SEM data analysis was conducted using WAR-PLS 6.0. Data analysis using PLS-SEM are commonly used to explain the holistic relationships among variables included in the research. Conditions resulting in unacceptable solutions does not occur with PLS-SEM since it is variance-based, hence the problem on singularity matrix can be avoided, which makes it work on recursive structural models. There is a generally decreasing trend in the poverty incidence in Southeast Asia. Timor-Leste have the highest poverty incidence from 2001 to 2008, followed by Myanmar and Cambodia. Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand were among the three countries with the lowest average poverty incidence. On the other hand, vulnerable employment was estimated at 58.36% of the total employment in 2018. The reduction of vulnerable employment in the region has been a slow process. In 2018, Lao PDR and Timor-Leste had the highest incidence of vulnerable employment, while Malaysia and Philippines had the lowest incidence. The PLS structural equation model for poverty and vulnerable employment illustrated in a figure showed a good fit as reflected by the model fit indices. The coefficient of determination, or R squared, equals 0.903 indicates that the variables included in the model accounts for 90.3% of the variance in the dependent variable. The average variance inflation factor less than 3.3 implies the absence of multicollinearity, while Tenenhaus goodness of fit reflect the large effect sizes and the large explanatory power of the model. The PLS-SEM revealed that access to electricity is the strongest determinant of poverty in the ASEAN region. This implies that increased access to electricity significantly lowers the poverty incidence in the region. The lack of access to electricity has been linked to the concept of energy poverty, which is the lack of a bare minimum of electric lighting for reading and for other productive activities after sundown. On the other hand, the net official development assistance per capita or foreign aid is another indicator that produces a significant effect on poverty headcount. Foreign aid has been recognized as an important contributor in the economic development of developing nations by providing resources for industrialization, increased product diversity, and generating employment. Foreign direct investment is another factor linked to the significant reduction of poverty in the ASEAN region. FDI serves as catalyst of industrialization, promotes spillover effects on the host countries such as increasing capital buildup, boosting job formation, and knowledge transfer. Adult literacy is a significant predictor of poverty in Southeast Asia. However, the model points out that increasing adult literacy does not reduce poverty in the ASEAN countries. A similar contention was raised by Sandlin, pointing out that education alone cannot bring about the economic transformations needed to drastically alleviate poverty. Increasing the supply of graduates without keeping pace on the demand growth for skilled workers would result on the relative decline in wages. This is what analysts term as a falling return to education. As to the determinants of the vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia, the percentage of population with access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking is a strong determinant of vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia. Women and children are usually encumbered with collecting biomass fuels, which is physically demanding and time-consuming, thus preventing them from attending school or working. This means that enhancing access to modern and clean energy sources help in reducing vulnerable employment by increasing their opportunities to participate in income-generating activities. Personal remittances is a strong driver of vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia. Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia reported the highest average inflow of personal remittances in the region. In spite of their positive impact on the economic development of migrant households and the significant support they bring to their host economies and the countries of origin, the significant labor market disadvantages that migrant workers face cannot be discounted. ILO identified women migrant domestic workers as among the most vulnerable workers in the world, many of whom are exploited and subjected to conditions amounting to slavery and forced labor. The proportion of self-employed females and the percentage of female employed in industries contribute to the significant increase of vulnerable employment in the ASEAN region. In developing countries, equating self-employment with entrepreneurship is oftentimes misleading since the purpose of most of these activities is to earn a living temporarily before going into a better employment. Government policies are restrictive, oftentimes leading to arrests, fines, and confiscations of their inventories, which needlessly hinder the self-employed poor from earning even a meager living. Similarly, female employment in industries contributes to an increase in vulnerable employment in the region. The recent economic developments among the Southeast Asian countries brought with it the rise of manufacturing industries, which resulted in the shift of workers from agriculture to manufacturing, rural to urban migration, and the increased participation of the female population in the labor market. However, high rates of industrialization and the rise in job opportunities from the augmented manufacturing sector does not automatically translate to high job quality. Generally, women tend to receive lower pay and are usually employed in low productivity jobs. Out-of-pocket health expenditure contributes to the increase in the rate of vulnerable employment in the ASEAN region, and its effect is partially mediated by poverty headcount. This means that the effects of out-of-pocket health expenditure in driving households below the poverty line is exacerbated among those engaged in vulnerable employment, particularly the female sector, that usually do not provide buffers in case of some catastrophic health events. In countries where health insurance and social protection are not available, out-of-pocket expenditure during childbirth limits a woman's ability to pursue better economic opportunities and even affect their pursuit for work in the formal sector. Poverty headcount increases the incidence of vulnerable employment in Southeast Asia. This result implies that poverty actually drives a person or a family member towards undertaking vulnerable employment in order to make ends meet. In Vietnam, economic losses from financial shocks of their rural households reduce the quality of their employment, thus making them more susceptible to engaging in vulnerable employment. A study in Thailand echoed similar findings, showing that indebtedness and economic shock negatively affects the quality of employment of rural migrants. Similarly, the levels of indebtedness prior to migration engender Filipino and Indonesian domestic helpers to take precarious employments overseas that offer limited term employments and limited labor rights. In conclusion, improve access to electricity, high official development assistance, increased inflow of foreign direct investments, and better opportunities for employment in industries among the female sector help in reducing poverty headcount in the region. On the contrary, increased literacy rate does not readily translate into poverty reduction. Moreover, high rates of out-of-pocket health expenditure reflect a high poverty incidence in this region. On the other hand, improved access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking reflect a significant reduction in vulnerable employment in the ASEAN region. In contrast, increased rate of self-employment and employment in industries among the female sector mirror a high frequency of vulnerable employment. Furthermore, high rates of out-of-pocket health expenditure and increase in poverty headcount ratio result in the upsurge of vulnerable employment. Higher amounts of personal remittances received in a country also manifest higher risks of vulnerable employment. These findings highlight the importance of providing better social and healthcare security and strengthening regulation for labor market protection. International development assistance should focus on improving access to clean and efficient energy sources in the region. Foreign investment should ensure better employment opportunities in industries while promoting healthier working conditions and improved employment security. Although from a human capital standpoint, education has been recognized as an effective weapon in the war against poverty, economic and political structures should be transformed to ensure that the growth in demand for good-paying jobs should keep pace with the rising pool of qualified labor, while tackling on issues that promote discriminatory and inequitable practice in the workplace. These are the references. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sir Ariel. May I give the floor to Professor Abusejo for the question and answer. Sir?
Okay, Sir Ariel. Thanks for the for the comprehensive presentation. May I ask first, your data series, what were the years that you included here that you consider for the research? What year? Are you there, sir? Yes, sir. What were the years covered in this research, the years of the data?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. So did you hear it?
I'm sorry, sir. My signal right now is very weak because we power cut, brown out. So I wasn't able to get your question.
What were the data
My
series?
signal here is fluctuating a lot.
So the years, do you hear that? The years that covered in the data.
The years, the years.
The data series, yeah.
I included from 2001 to 2018, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Ferdy.
Now, how did you define the latent variables that you are talking about, because it has 8.5% contribution to poverty alleviation? What are these latent variables that you considered in the study? Hello? Hello, sir. Ma'am Janet.
I'm so sorry.
Ma'am Janet, maybe
Yes, sir.
we'll proceed later na lang. The internet for sir is not working well. He does not
I
hear me.
understand. I
Yeah,
understand, sir. Don't worry,
later
we'll
na.
just get back to Sir
Yeah,
Ariel's
we can
question and
proceed.
answer.
Yes.
All right, now at this point in time, we will proceed to our fifth presentation. Let's all welcome from Summer State University, Miss Gloria Grace Gooden, on her paper entitled Folk, Spoil, and Fire, the community-based firefighting program of Catbalogan City, Philippines.
Good day, everyone. Fox Spoil Fire, the community-based firefighting program in Catbalogan City, Philippines. The contents of the presentation include the following. International, national, and local policy frameworks provide approaches and strategies designed to protect lives and properties and or prevent the loss thereof, including livelihood in times of fire. They provide frameworks for more systematic, participatory, engaging, and localized management of fire across the world. In the Philippines, the administration of relative fire prevention and risk reduction programs are with the Bureau of Fire Protection, while the NDRRMC deals with disaster in general. Studies and literatures showed that there are places across the world that uses and apply into practice these international frameworks, and some were proven effective, hence encouraged. In the implementation of policies, the primary recipient are the communities. And it is in this area that the researcher have found relative questions such as the following. What are these programs? Are communities part of it? How are these programs implemented? Are communities ready? What are factors that enable or impede these programs? And how can communities improve based on data? Hence, the research questions for this research include the following. What are community-based fire prevention and risk reduction activities of the BFP Catbalogan? How community-based fire prevention and risk reduction activities are embedded into community practice? What are the factors that enable or impede the implementation of community-based fire prevention and risk reduction activities? The BFP's vision, or the Bureau of Fire Protection's vision, showed that the organization is encouraged to promote and uphold or pursue participatory activities and approaches in fire prevention and risk reduction. However, there is very little information, if not at all, conducted on how BFP translate into praxis these principles contained within their programs, projects, and activities. Hence, the researcher decided to pursue the following objectives for this research. Identify the community-based fire prevention and risk reduction firefighting activities. Describe how community-based fire prevention and risk reduction activities are embedded into praxis. Search for more factors or existing factors that enable or impede the implementation of the program. And to realize this particular objectives, the researcher utilized the qualitative method. Interviews, observations were conducted with participants who were selected through expert sampling. The researcher believed that they are experts and could provide the information required in this study. The study design is a case study. It is descriptive and single case since it only deals with the Bureau of Fire and the Katbalagan community in particular. The data collection process includes the following steps. These measures were utilized and carried out during the conduct of the research. During the data analysis, the researcher utilized these techniques or mechanisms: the research question, data coding, and logic model technique. The researcher likewise used photo elicitation with auto photography during the conduct of the observation, just to create a complete picture on how the service culture in fire prevention and risk reduction in the city is being implemented. The photo elicitation and auto photography were utilized as data checking tools just to harmonize the statements authored by the participants versus acts or conducts in the actual execution or implementation of the project's programs and activities in the field or with the community. Results showed that fire prevention and risk reduction in city is community-based, and both the BFP and BLGUs responded that it is, except the CDRRMO or the Katbalogan Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, as based on them, they are governed by the principle or system upheld by the civil defense, which is the incident command system. Though they are operating local, and they focus merely, however, they focus merely on institutions through the local government units. The following are the activities shared by the BFP and the BLGUs. It is between these two that the stronghold of community-based fire disaster and risk reduction rests. For the process or as to how the BFP channels these principles contained in their projects, programs, and activities, these principles include bayanihan, all of society approach, full participatory approach, amongst others, and how they translate it and how it becomes community praxis. It all starts with the BFP through their policies and activities, then translated to the BLGUs, where there are grassroots leaders and policymakers who could create initiatives or ordinances in relation to the enforcement of fire prevention and risk reduction measures. Then we have the community, where there are larger populations that are considered vulnerable, and then to the larger reach, which is a society, where there are sectors or groups, volunteer groups, or people's organizations who could be tapped in the realization of these PPAs. It is also discovered that the two activities are central or critical in the achievement of this process: the community education and community organizing. The following are the enabling and impeding factors that either affect or do not affect the implementation of the fire prevention and risk reduction measures of the Bureau of Fire. The participants reasoned that the weak external linkage does not have the effect or impact, because what we really need, according to them, is strong political will by being stronger political institutions. Outsourcing and the source windows could address the problems when it comes to technological and technical capacity, and the lack of finances could be remedied through program prioritization within the BLGUs. However, the lack of policy or plan is an automatic impeding factor that affect the implementation of the fire prevention and risk reduction measures of the BFP. For our logic model technique, it is believed that the inputs necessary for the effective and efficient implementation of the fire prevention and risk reduction measures include the following. And it could pose, as long as there is, it could pose short-term, medium-term to long-term effect, and that could in fact lead to the creation of stronger grassroots institutions through grassroots leadership. Therefore, the study found that community-based fire prevention and risk reduction measures are present in the city. It promote or they promote full people approach, participatory approach, and require the intensification of all of society approach. For recommendation, the study further recommends research, especially on areas of assessment of program implementation, effectiveness of the CFAC or the Community Fire Auxiliary Groups. This is to measure grassroots leadership, quality and utility of fire prevention protection plans of the communities. It is likewise recommended that the financial and the technical problems be addressed by combining the resources of the technical and research institutions in order to help the BFP and the BLGUs realize these measures. And how do we do it? I recommend, or the research recommends, that trainings, seminars, workshops be conducted, and all sectors of the community must be tapped in order to triumph effective community-based fire prevention and risk reduction measures in the city. I will end with my quote by saying, "With the mighty hand could no longer hold the grasp of society, who shall take the lead in the grassroots level? Who shall take the charge in protecting lives, properties, and livelihoods in times of fire?" And we know who must be. It must be the society and the people within our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gooden. May I give the floor to Dr. Rodriguez for the question, ma'am?
Good afternoon, Miss Presenter. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So your paper is on the community participation for fire prevention. And you only have chosen...
Yes, ma'am.
I think you only have chosen 12 participants. 12.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that there are 3 sectors of which these participants have represented. And,
Institution.
yeah, 3
Yes,
institutions, the CDRRMO and the Fire, BFP, and the
Bureau
BLG.
of Fire Protection.
2 BLGUs. So kindly elaborate, how did you select the participants when in fact there were only 12 participants all in all?
Okay, the inclusion of the participants is based on expert sampling, wherein it is believed that these people are the experts, or they are the people who could give the researcher the needed or the required information for the research, while the 2 BLGUs who participated in the research, ma'am, are the only 2 LGUs which are considered recipients or beneficiaries current based on data of the BFP. They are the BLGUs that are initially engaged in the execution and implementation of the preliminary activities involved, particularly in ligtas na pamayanan o plan ligtas na pamayanan. That's why up
Okay.
with tools.
Okay. How did you conduct the gathering of data of this community participation in the fire prevention? Was it
The
actual?
gathering of the data center. The gathering of the data, ma'am, centered on the participation of the three institutions, identified institutions or sectors, but there were no representatives coming from the people per se. Say, for example, people's organizations. It is
Yeah.
merely based on the institutions. Yes, ma'am. The BFP, the CDRRMO of Catbalagan City, and the two barangays um, uh, through the local government leaders.
So actually, that was my question. How come that there was no participation coming from the people themselves when in fact they were the ones who were directly involved in the implementation of this program?
Is basically and gather relative information from the implementation of projects, programs, and activities of the BFP is
I
concerned.
think there's a
However,
problem with the audio. I could not hear your voice well.
my study, I limited how. Hello, ma'am. Hello,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I could not hear her well. The audio is very static. Anyway, so...
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Okay. Can you repeat your answer, please?
Intentions of the researcher is really to gather relative information from the people per se, since the community or the people themselves are the primary beneficiaries of all of these programs. However, I limited my study based on how, or the how question, or on the process of implementing these programs in such a way that the community will take or will have grasp of these programs. And later I realized that to really provide a comprehensive picture is that there must be at least involvement of the people, which is one of the steps that I would like to pursue if ever I will expound on the topic.
I think so, because you cannot just simply disregard their vital participation, even if they are the recipients
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
beneficiaries of the program. They have a say, and they are directly involved in the implementation. So I think it would be
Yes, ma'am.
a best source of information if they themselves could attest to the effectiveness and efficiency of the program.
Yes, ma'am. And the participation of the people is based on the representation of the barangay officials. For the researcher assumed that the representatives in the barangays know the ordeals, or perhaps know their constituents, the conditions within the grassroots communities.
Yeah, but there could be another perspective if the responses would be coming from the grassroots themselves. Since we are talking here of the
Yes,
grassroots
ma'am.
level,
I agree.
and you have involved only officials
Yes,
of
ma'am.
the barangay, which could affect somehow their what's this, their
Yes, ma'am.
perspective in the implementation of the program.
Excuse me, Dr. Rodriguez. As much
Yes.
as we want to
Yes, thank
give
you
you
very much.
talking,
Yes, ma'am.
we need to uphold the 5-minute question and answer
Ma'am.
time frame. I apologize. Thank you so much to the both of you. And we're down to the last but not the least presenter for this afternoon session, all the way from Northwest Summer State University. Let's all welcome Mr. Judy Lester Panella on concentrating on overt and very intense disruption of livelihood, phenomenological study of career changes during this pandemic.
Good day, everyone. My study is entitled Concentrating on Overt and Very Intense Disruption, COVID of Livelihood, a phenomenological study of career changers during the pandemic. Just a form of disclaimer, career changers are those who are classified as participants who were laid off or participants whose workplace were closed as an effect of the pandemic. So these are underemployed or unemployed participants as an effect of the pandemic that we are experiencing now. Before I continue, by the way, my name is Jody Lester V. Panella. I'm an instructor one from the College of Education, Northwest Summer State University. The COVID-19 pandemic had changed the economic landscape of the country, not only the economic landscape, but also the health, educational, and the demographic landscape of the country. Such change had seen industries crumbled, inadvertently letting off employees in the process. By introducing a negative experience for those employees, they took a direct hit, and that transition was not only meant changing perspective from the old norms to the new norms, but changing the aspects of living and withstanding. Withstanding means sustaining their way or their lifestyle. The closest research that I have seen focus on the immediate psychological responses to those individuals stricken with the disease at the early stage. So this was the closest or the most personal study that I could encounter, and so far, no studies have been conducted exploring the lived experiences of individuals affected by the disease one way or another. The objective of the study is to explore the lived experiences, perceptions, and challenges of career changers during the pandemic. As part of the specific objective, I want to explore their experience. I want to know their perception on changing careers during these trying times, and I want to explore their aspirations. So what is next for them? What are they planning to do, and what they want to do in the future? The design for the study is a phenomenological approach. Participants are career changers, underemployed, unemployed individuals, as brought about by the pandemic. Purposive sampling was used. Online interview and observations were utilized since I am maintaining a strict health protocol as mandated by this pandemic. At the same time, I want to guarantee the safety of not only myself but the participants of the study. Most of the data collections were done online. Analysis of the data collected underwent the Colisy process. For the reflexivity, in this study, the researcher's approach is different in terms of other researchers' perspective. As a person who knows the struggle of career changers and their aspiration, the researcher understands his stand might lead to a different development and an equally valid understanding of the particular situation under study. The researcher maintained that preconception with a tone of positivity of eventually creating meaning during the entire process, and furthermore, preconception is not equated in any form of bias unless the researcher fails to mention them. Ethical considerations are all participant-centered. Three themes emerge from the study. Theme one is the challenges and obstacles. Theme two is the optimistic vision. And number three is identifying drudgery. Drudgery is something that you identify your new niche, you identify your new field of which you can flourish. For the challenges and obstacles, they were supported by the following statements. ka-unfair sa kinabuhi, diyak antigo kung ano pa ang akon mabuhat sa sitwasyon. Life is unfair. I really don't know what to do with my situation. It seems easy for them to let go of me, though I've worked for them for quite some time now. Life was already hard with COVID-19. It was way harder now that I don't have a job anymore. According to Shaley and Shapiro 2020, when you are confronted or offered with a difficult situation, you tend to see it first as a way of losing an identity. You tend to be rebellious at that time. You tend to be angry of the result of this experience. Another statement. The situation is hard, yet I know there's a reason for this problem. Lastly, I cannot do much. I feel the problems are presented because one can overcome it. The next theme is optimistic vision. Something better is expected in the horizon. It is only work. I can still look for one. Life does not end after you lose your job. It is an opportunity for something better. It is not only work, not life that was lost. Keep fighting. Work is like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You may lose one, but you will never run out of it. The original statement states that ang trabaho mura og yagid, mawala la pero diri maubusan. What is important is that I am alive regardless of not having any work. I can still look for one. According to the study of Levin, the learning process increases ignorance, is remedied same as to changing perspective from seeing the problem as an opportunity for something new. And lastly, identifying drudgery. Identifying drudgery, again, it's looking for your new niche. It's looking for your something, a workplace, a form of activity wherein you could flourish more. Statements such as, I earn more in online selling, wish I've known this sooner. My new job is better since I can use what I've learned in college. I don't see anything wrong doing a job that I didn't study for. What is important is I can sustain my needs. Survival of the fittest. I don't get mad of my new job I am earning. Whatever the job is, it is fine with me as long as it's decent. Why not? According to the study of Cherney and Fitzgerald 2016, supported by Fujita and Moscarini in 2017, and Hoye and Sachs in 2008, identifying drudgery is a process of reaffirming, re-establishing your identity as a worker and see the situation as a constant array of learning and improving. As a conclusion, it is suggested that career changers are those who felt the fatal blow of the pandemic recession, yet they hold an undying positivity of overcoming such adversities and finding new ways of earning a living. Intensive interview with their family, their friends, and their community members is strongly recommended. Further studies and a more in-depth investigation of the lived experiences of career changers is likewise recommended. As a parting message, I just wanted to say the tremendous aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic had changed the economic landscape of the country. Establishments closing and people losing jobs. Career changers' experiences and aspiration to alleviate poverty and overcome such hardship could not be questioned, could not be tarnished. Resiliency at its best. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Panella. And may I
Hey
give the floor to
everyone,
Dr.
my
Ramirez?
study is entitled Concentrating on Overt and Very.
Hello, may I know if our presenter is on board right now? Sir Judy?
Hello, Sir
Yes,
Panella,
sir,
are
I'm
you on
here.
board?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, good
Sorry.
afternoon, Sir
Oh, yes,
Panelo.
hello.
Okay, congratulations for coming up with
Panela.
Panela. Sorry, Panela.
Yes po.
Okay. Congratulations for coming up with this research. May I know how many are you? And how long did you conceptualize this study?
Actually, I'm only the sole author of the study. Actually, the study started way back in March. I try to look at trends on what is happening, and I observe that people are slowly losing their form of living, their job per se. So I started to look for participants of the study which could then have the how do you say this, which could then make up the total let's say the whole picture of the study, that could easily explain their experiences, their aspiration as to the phenomena on hand.
Okay. Personally, how have you experienced losing a job in the past?
Yes, sir, I did. Both of which are quite emotional. That's why I reflected on, or rather stated on my reflexivity, that I know the feeling, but it will not overshadow what themes or meanings will be created within the study. So their perception really is the star of the study, not my actual experience per se.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and I'm asking the question because I want also to give you a comment on your research design is phenomenology, right?
Yes, sir.
Phenomenology is, yes, this is a phenomenological study, and understand that most of the phenological researches or studies conducted are done in a natural setting. Uh, I don't know if you will agree with me. And in this case, I just don't. I am not that so sure if you did really did research in a natural setting because we were in a pandemic and we cannot. As of you said, you stated in your paper, you did not conduct your study face to face with your participants. So how did you
Yes,
was
sir.
this? Okay, okay, continue.
Yes, sir. Continue. Is that your question, sir? Uh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, sir. Sorry for cutting you off. Actually, I was expecting this question because if you go to the rudiments of phenomenology, you have to be present, you have to be physically there, you have to observe. But given the pandemic that we have, I need to change something a little bit so that not only my safety is at risk, but also the safety of my participants. COVID is something that we don't know. It's a virus that we couldn't see, and God forbid, I will be the one to transfer the infection to them. So for their safety, I did online interviews, online journals, and at the same time, if they have, they actually send videos for me because some of them doesn't really into making journals online, so they send a video on what they do or their hardships, and all of those were collected, and
Yeah, that's why I
that form part of my data collection.
yeah, yeah, because it's not stated in your paper. So I just wondered if
Mhm.
you really strictly followed no the rudiments of phenomenological research. Okay, but anyway, you were able to do it, and I suppose you had some modifications made. Just wondered why you decided to still use phenomenological study because I just don't know if you continue reading nowadays because there might be recent publications coming from referee journals on how they call. I mean, there might be some emerging concepts on uh, approaches in conducting qualitative research, specifically on phenomenological researches. So anyway, I
Exactly, sir.
just
That
would like
Sorry.
I just would like to congratulate you. You did a good job, really.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sir Panella, and most especially to Dr. Ramirez. By the way, there will be no longer question and answer for our presentation or presenter from Vietnam because this paper is a non-competing paper. We will instead proceed to the question and answer for Dr. Mabansag's paper. Sir Ariel, are you on board? Sir Ariel? I think Sir Ariel is not yet ready. Okay, let me invite everyone to please attend the awarding ceremony for the most outstanding paper and best paper presentation. And at this juncture, we proceed
Excuse me.
to, yes,
Excuse
sir.
me, Miss Moderator. Can we give time for other authors, the presenters this morning? They might be on board now because on my part as an evaluator, there are still some presenters in the morning which I could not, uh, you know, I could not give justice to the ratings, especially we have three criteria for the presentation. So the rest of the criteria can be generated from their actual papers which were given to us in advance. However, for the three criteria which could only be completed during the actual presentation, I doubt I can complete. So can we please give time for the presenters this morning, more specifically on the following. The first presenter is still not on board, right? The one from Aklan
Yes, sir.
State University.
Yes.
So we will have a blank rating for the rest of the criteria. So the next presenter, which I think kulang, is Francisco Buctot, the
Mhm.
paper 9, the analysis of per capita, and then another one is the presenter from PIT, I think, si Ma'am Rochelle.
Yes, sir.
Kasi hindi ko mabigay yung, I don't know with the other members of the evaluators if they were able to do it, no? So let me see my scorecard here. So that's it, Ma'am Janet. Can we please call back these two
Hello, Ma'am
presenters?
Janet.
Yes, sir. Your wish is granted.
Hello, Ma'am Janet.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the one that presented the per capita consumption, the question that was given to him by Dr. Abusiho was on the coverage, the period of the years that were covered in the analysis of data. And I think he gave an answer through the chat box. So from there, from there, I just based my rating with his answer on that question per se. Since he was able to present, no, so I was able to determine already the format and his skill on the presentation itself. I don't know, but of course, for the Aklan State University presenter, that's really something that we have to leave blank because she was not really able to answer any of the questions that was given to her. So that's it.
So, sir, are we okay with that? Dr. Ramirez?
Yeah, because earlier I was thinking that Sir Abusiho will have follow-up questions because he was saying that I have a lot, I mean, he has many points to clarify, but for the first question pa lang, hindi naman na-deliver. So that's why siguro nag-answer si That's my problem because I could no longer trace. The answer. I could no longer trace it on the chat box because I went out of the room and then went back, and I could no longer read the answer.
Yes, Sir Ding, I still have many questions, some clarifications needed. But anyway, if he cannot be on board, then we cannot do anything. We'll just mark, maybe I will put a lower points because he
Yeah,
cannot be reached.
okay. So is he not around, ma'am? Ma'am
Who, sir?
Janet?
Yes, sir. Who,
Wala
sir?
siya. Okay. May problema sila sa connectivity kasi. Okay, sige. So we will just uh, give the ratings based on the what's it, the responses that they have.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so it's okay.
You're welcome. Is Miss Rochelle London on board? So Dr. Ramirez can ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am
I am on
Rochelle?
board. Hi, sir. Good
All
afternoon.
right, sir, she is here.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me
Okay,
well?
good afternoon. Yeah, because I just want to
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
yeah, I want to complete my question because I was not able to get the whole answer earlier. Can may I know what's your what are the emerging concepts? Because I just learned from your paper and also from your presentation that you were able to identify I think there were three clusters, and then you just
Yes, sir.
tag them as high API, low GNI, low API, low GNI, high API, high GNI, and I just don't know if you have already answered for my question earlier. What are these? How do they call them? How do you call these countries?
Okay. That is the CN elliptical cluster model, sir, that I would like to propose as a model in which this theory can be used to validate another sets of cluster, maybe like the whole Asia, not only focusing on ASEAN, but I can also use this kind of cluster model, the CN elliptical cluster model, as a new theory that which can be validated for another sets of clusters. Or I can also use that one for other countries who use English as a second language.
Okay, so I just would like to suggest that you come up with constructs based on the characteristics of these three groups, and then tag them. And that construct is a result of your research, and that your paper would be very attractive and could be publishable in referee journals. Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much,
Okay.
and
Thank you, sir. Noted, sir.
congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir Ariel, are you on board?
Yes, ma'am. Finally, I'm on board again.
All right, sir. Sir Abusejo, are you still with us? We already have Sir Ariel. You can ask questions.
Okay. This what was the study? Wait, because I'm already checking the ratings. Sir Ariel, what was your study about? I'm confused with so many papers open on my laptop.
Good afternoon, sir. My study is about modeling the dynamics of poverty and vulnerable employment in
Okay, wait.
Southeast Asia.
Sir, I think it's okay if you do not have the video as long as your line will be okay. Will be your internet connectivity ba? Modeling the dynamics of poverty. Okay. This
Yes, sir.
one. Because you said here your findings reveal. Wait, I have to see the paper. Wait. On your paper, there's something here that struck me on the findings. This poverty, which is that the effect size, a variable which has 0.90 impact. The vulnerable employment. What are these vulnerable employment that you've studied were considered, that have considered by your study? Because they are, what were these?
These are actually data which I got from World Bank,
Yeah,
World
yeah,
Development
but I
Initiatives.
mean, in real
This
in
this
real world, sir, what are these
yeah.
vulnerable employment? What they refer to? Because we cannot generalize the variable to say vulnerable employment. Actually, we know that they are not permanent. They are, because they are vulnerable. They are on contract.
Yes,
But
sir.
what are these that you consider in your study? Because we cannot recommend vulnerable employment per se. We have to go to the real scenario in the actual field, in the actual setting. Because with your findings, with the path analysis you have, they influence 90.3% and it's very high. That's why I want to know in the paper, it should be clear cut. We know the variable. What are the indicators of vulnerable employment? What do they include as indicator? Do you have the data?
That indicator actually, sir, is can be found in World Bank data.
Yeah, but
Vulnerable
you know, you have to
employment,
put it in your paper.
total.
Otherwise, big
Yes, sir.
CSS. So what are these vulnerable employment that you refer to? There are two things, no, that you use as variable. The vulnerable employment, which refer to what? I just want to be clarified so that the paper will have essence in the real setting. Otherwise, it's too technical.
Yes, sir. Okay, so what I refer to as vulnerable employment are actually uh, employment which are precarious, or those that
Yeah, but what are these
don't
in
have
the,
contracts, or
in the ASEAN context?
uh in the ASEAN context, this include uh uh employment which are not paid, like household, those belonging to the household which they are not actually paid, even if they participate in some work,
Okay,
like.
sige sir. Because for the benefit of limited time, I would suggest defining clearly in your paper. Otherwise, your paper will be on the clouds. It is not grounded on the ground. It is not grounded based. So just define them. What are the vulnerable employments? Because in essence, if I am a researcher, if I am in the real city setting, I will ask what are these, and this has to be rooted on the policy. What are these that you have to
Yes, sir.
consider?
Actually,
I think
I have defined that, sir, in the paper, sir. I have defined
it's
that.
still there, but it's still vague. It's generic. It's generic. If I
Yeah,
would say, because your paper is economic term and a statistical term, econometrics. It's good, but I see the paper floating in the clouds for some variables. It's not touch based on the ground. When you publish this one, for sure, this will be one recommend no that can be noticed by the expert, because it has, look, you claim it to be very highly significant at 90% influence on the poverty, and that has to be something to be articulated clearly so that it will have really a good pay, it will add substance to the paper ba. Kana la ito la sir usa late, and then maybe you, if you did not, because you use the path analysis, right?
Yes, sir.
This is the path
That
analysis.
is actually
That's
structural equation modeling, sir.
Yes, but in similar in research, it could be path analysis. But where this path analysis came from, this is structural equation model. How did you arrive at this? Maybe because it's too, if I'm a policymaker, I will not look at it. It's very topsy-turvy. It points to many things, but clearly in a paper, we should be able to clearly indicate what we want to reveal. Ito lang sir ba, maybe a table could do that in terms of contribution, in terms of significant, because your paper is good. The only thing, it is lacking, it is weak in terms of putting it in the real context of the ASEAN. Ito gala sir, but if you have difficulty on that, it's fine. Anyway, when you publish this, it will be commented on the expert. Drama mo ko din non-poverty. It's too good for us technical people, but in a policy people will read this one. They will not understand the structural equation model. It's too highly technical. And if you can have some clear representation, which will give policymakers the clear idea, not with this arrow, then it could be best, maybe. There are some presentations. I have seen already a paper like this. It was presented another table. It could be table, sir. Table with no with this no arrow. Anyway, it's a challenge. But if you cannot make, if you will have time difficulty for that, it's okay. But your paper can have a quote. It has potential for publication. Sige, sir.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you very
sir.
much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Sir Ariel, and especially Professor Abusejo. At this point, we will proceed to the awarding of Certificate of Recognition to our dear panel of evaluators. Let me read the citation for the certificate. Samar State University, in partnership with Northwest Samar State University and partner collaborators, awards the Certificate of Recognition to Dr. Lodito Ramirez in his grateful recognition for his invaluable insights and inputs rendered as expert evaluator during the second International Conference on Poverty Alleviation and Sustainable Development, held on October 21 to 23, 2020, given this 22nd day of October 2020. Signed, Dr. Marilyn D. Cardoso, Chair, International Poverty Conference 2020, and Dr. Benjamin Picayo, Co-Chair, International Poverty Conference, iPOVCON 2020. A round of applause, please. And the same certificate is awarded to Dr. Catherine Rodriguez and also Professor Ferdinand Abusejo. At this point, may I request everyone to please turn on your camera so we can take a Please click the link below for your attendance. And I would like to thank our panel of evaluators and our presenters for a job well done. See you tomorrow. Have a nice day. This has been your moderator, signing off.